Hi there, my name's Monica and I'm a Search Press author and I run a small business called The Knickknacks. I design everything that I do and I work for magazines. I've had books published by Search Press and I also work for yarn companies. My particular love is Fair Isle. As you can see, I'm wearing one of my own designs that I think would be great as a Christmas jumper in your choice of colours. And nothing to say that you can't put any two colours together to produce the alpacas. I've also done a hat in this design, a little jumper for your chosen special person, and a little hat. What is the problems with Fair Isle? It is the tension and getting your yarns muddled as you use them. The tension is easily resolvable. First of all, you need to change stitches every 2 to 3 ones so that they don't get twisted, and always place the yarn you're using over the one that you're not using, and that creates the twist at the back that holds the stitch together. The other problem is your yarns getting muddled, and I'm afraid I don't have a complete magic solution for that. I would suggest, however, that you place your yarns on the table so that they're manageable. At the moment, in these times, we've all got extra time, whether it's for going out and doing a walk, fitting in an extra hobby, and doing a bit more knitting. The one thing we all know is that there is Christmas coming up and that your loved ones may well appreciate a gift handmade by you, or you want to make yourself a special treat. Hats are really good in this weather. They'll keep you warm while socialising outside, or whether you're going for a long walk in the country or just walking around the town. They can be really, really simple to do, and they can be complex. In one of my books that I've done with Search Press, in the Winter's Warmers, you'll get a selection of hats, as well as snoods, scarves, fingerless gloves and headbands, and there's a project in it for everyone. My latest book is a book on Fair Isle, which has got lots of ideas where you can put together your own designs, as well as following patterns that are already in there. So you need to think about what your next project could be. Do you want to use some of your yarn that you've got at home? If so, why not incorporate a bit of Fair Isle into the cuff of an item, or just into the base of it to make it your own choice, and it won't affect the tension, because already at the bottom of your garment you've already got a hem or you've got a rib. I'm here to answer questions. I run workshops, and you can always get in touch with me through my website where there is a contact number. What else do you need to know about knitting? It's not as difficult as it looks. So you can either go on a Zoom session, you can get a book, of which Search Press do many, that will support you with this project. Okay, let's just talk about colours for a few minutes. Most people, when they go out and buy a pattern, will choose the colours that they see the pattern made in. But why not think about colours that you love? Find a pattern and then go and find some matching yarn. What we do know is that most patterns are made with the owner of the company in mind, so that if it's a Rowan pattern, they will want you to use a Rowan colour, but it may not be within your cost remit or have the colour that you want. So what you need to do is look at the ball band. That will give you an idea of the meterage that you've got in each ball, as well as the tension. And if they match your chosen project, then why not substitute it for the yarn that they name? It could be cheaper and you could get more of what you want. There are lots of websites to help you with buying yarn. Obviously, I sell yarn and you can look at my website. but there are lots and lots of discounted yarns around. So have a good look, think of the fibre that you want, and then go and make a purchase and have fun knitting the project. Do you want a challenge for these winter months? Why not knit yourself a cowl or a scarf using all the bits of yarn that you've got in your stash? Just make sure that they're all the same thickness. An ideal thickness for this project might be a double knitting yarn. Go and have a look on the internet, perhaps Pinterest, or just Google in Fair Isle designs and find a very simple pattern and change colours as you go along. But just be cautious and weave in your yarns as you go along, or you'll have an awful lot of ends at the end of it all. But at the end of your project, you'll have the most fabulous scarf that you yourself has designed. Let's talk a bit about reading patterns. All patterns will have the written version and some will have charts. With the written version, you've got to be careful about the pattern repeats. So where there's an asterisk, you usually repeat from that asterisk to the end of the row, and there may be stitches on either end. Where you have a chart and you're using straight needles, you read the chart from right to left on your knit rows and from left to right on your purl rows. And if you don't do this, I'm afraid the pattern won't be right. But if you're using circular needles, then your yarn is, this chart is read from right to left all the time as you're just knitting and doing no purling whatsoever. They're really straightforward to use, and if you have a chart together with your written instructions, then you can't really go wrong because you can always check one against the other. The other thing is terminology. In England, we use different terminology to that in the States. For example, we will say cast off, and in the States they will say bind off, but they mean exactly the same thing. Also, with lace knitting, you get things like yarn over, which means your yarn goes over the needle, thus creating a stitch, but it may say yarn over needle or yarn forward, but they are the same thing. You only need to know that your yarn is in the right place for you to make an extra stitch. So when you're doing a purl stitch, you're taking the yarn the other way, so your yarn is ready to purl the next stitch. I hope that's some useful information because I know it's something that people find hard. Also, it's helpful when you get a pattern to mark out the sizes that you want with a highlighter so that you know when you go on to the next bit which bit you should be reading. Let's talk about needles now. I think we all know that when our mothers used to knit or grandmothers used to knit, they all used metal needles. Well, needles have gone a long way. Of course, you can still get these. The ones that came after these were bamboo needles that were smooth and didn't matter so much about the temperature. With metal needles, they can get very cold and then work can slide very easily off them, especially if you're using double-pointed needles or cable needles. With these, they're much easier to work with in all temperatures, and even if your hands get sticky, they remain smooth. The next lot of needles were sustainable wood, which are very good for those of you who are ecologically minded, and they're firm and they're extremely smooth when you work with them, but they do come at a price. But if you knit a lot, it's worth investing in good needles. When things change, one starts to knit with circular needles. This means that there is no purling involved generally. That if you're doing stocking stitch, every single round is knitted, which makes life a lot easier, but some people find them very hard to work with. A tip I can give you is when casting on, cast on one extra stitch and then move that extra stitch back to your right hand needle and knit the first two together. This gives you a lovely even join. When you're doing hats on circular needles and the top gets too small to work with the circular needles, you will need a set of double pointed needles. Usually they come in sets of 4 or 5, and they're also used for sock knitting, a useful tool for you to have in your box. What I do suggest is that if you're doing work that are on a small project, is that you have very short needles. These are quite long and they're less easy to use than ones that are, say, half the length, and you can hold them very easily. If you've want to keep changing size and you don't have a set of needles that you use, what are quite good are the interchangeable needles, and they come with a wire across them, and you simply unscrew the ones you're using and screw on the size that's suitable for the project that you're using. All in all, you will need various size needles to go with your stash and with projects that you're knitting, and at some point it's worth investing in a good set, maybe as a nice Christmas present from someone you love.